Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, David. How are you doing?
Okay, I can't tell time.
That's okay. That's why I'm here to remind us.
Hey, it's time to go.
hey,
Oh.
hey, I didn't figure out I wasn't live until 45 minutes into the show last time. Everyone was chatting, and I was like, "Geez, they're not listening to me because
Why aren't you
I'm like,
guys hearing what I'm
I'm
saying?
talking about what you guys are talking about, and you guys aren't." And then someone's like, "Are you going to start the show?" I'm like, "I thought I did."
You're like,
Oops.
I didn't yet. My bad. I'm sorry. You know what? I wish that the sign-in button inside of Streamlabs actually worked. Yep.
But it does when you sign in 4 times.
Well, no, it signs you in. It just never lets you use the chat thing. It always
Mm,
pops it out, and you're like, "Come on,
yeah.
I just want to chat with the nice folk."
Well, Dominic's here, so that's always good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Ray's here too.
Raise your. Yes, Ray picked up on it.
Why do I see two Gregs?
What do you mean? I.
Because David wants to play with his green screen.
Yep. I needed a. I had this epiphany. We did this at work once too. No, you're wrong way. Wrong way. I gotta go this way. No, you go this way. Yes. It's fun. It's kind of weird. It's a trip.
David.
A little Sunday fun day.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I could fix it. One
But
second.
well, while you're fixing that, we could say we could do the thing.
Okay, hold on. The thing shall commence in 3, 2, 1, go.
We just want to thank these wonderful people here, Helge at the top, and everyone else for supporting us on Patreon. If you'd like to join us on Patreon, you can. You just go to patreon.com/3dmakeit, and there are options for you to sign up if you like. I think there's even a new free tier, but you don't get access to Discord and stuff. But it's kind of neat. Discord is great. We get to talk to each other, share upcoming stuff. We got some neat stuff that we're not allowed to talk about that was posted in our Discord, and
Hush, hush.
so it looks really cool. So at some point in the future, we'll be able to actually publicly talk about it, but you guys just won't have anything know what it is unless you get into our nice Discord and to find out. So anyway, thanks everyone on this list, and everything else can be found at www.3dmakeit.ca.
And we're back. I did
All
it. See,
All
now
right.
it's fixed. There's less Gregs. I don't know if this is better or worse or what.
Well,
But
you could have put up like 300 mini Gregs behind you. So it's like a collage.
so many Gregs. So many Gregs.
Too many. How's that?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So we got some news to talk about before we get into our Klipper macro section. I got a couple good guides for you guys that maybe we should probably put in the community section on YouTube, or either put it in the notes on the video so that everyone can quickly get them. But Prusa in 2021 bought a Delta printer manufacturer company, and they have just recently come out with a brand new Delta printer. They're calling it the Prusa Pro HT90. It is a 300 by 400 Delta printer. So it's very similar in size to the Predator. And it's fully enclosed, has heated chamber, HEPA filters, all that stuff. So it's supposed to be rated as a, very commercial printer. But
There's
thought
looks
it
like
was
there's
interesting.
two different ones too. There's a Delta Q2 Plus that isn't
Yep.
enclosed, and then they call it the industrial. That
Yeah,
is
those are the
enclosed.
ones they bought in 2021 from that other company. But if you look at the new one, it's the HT90.
Is it less than the $4,000 that they charge for the other one?
No, you have to get you got to get a price quote. They
It's
don't tell
even
you the
better.
price.
So the other
So
two that the other company were like 3,600 and 7,800.
yeah.
So if that tells you anything in US dollars too.
Well, I'm thinking it replaces the Trial Lab Aztec Q.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it's probably 7,000 plus.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be. Morning, Pierre. It's gotta be in that range. I mean, we're not missing any printers in that price range. I'm gonna tell you that.
No.
Like,
No, but they have a full suite. They have a tool changing Core XY. They have a resin printer. They have your standard printer. They have your very base printer in Cartesian, and then now they have Deltas. So they have the full set of trading cards of printers. So yeah, I thought I saw that. I know it's out of the price of most of us, but I thought it was just newsworthy.
well, you talk about I'm gonna buy 4.
I wish I had your money. All right.
I'm not even buying one, and you know that's the truth.
I know. The other news, Slicer news. Kira has a beta out, not fully released yet, but it's the 5.7. So we won't go deep dive into it. We normally only go deep dive when it's a full release, but I just thought people should know that there is a beta out for that. We did mention, I think last week or the week before, that Prusa 2.7.2 is now released and working fine for me so far. I don't know. What do you think of the next one, David?
Which one, the Prusa or the topic? Of note too, Ray said it. Orca has another beta out as well, which doesn't surprise you because like if Prusa goes beta, then Orca will go beta.
Yeah, yeah. It's what 2 point something. I had that.
It's the next beta. That's what it's called. There's no number.
Oh, there is. It's 2.0.
Well, there you have it.
There. Yeah.
By Soft Fever. Meh. I mean, we could talk about it. Why not?
All right.
It's just the new Ender 3.
So there's an Ender 3 V3, but it's a little different than every previous Ender that we've had in the past, in that it's a Core XZ. So it has 2 motors that drive the X and the Z as A and B motors, basically like Core XY. So it's very similar to what is it, the Switchwire? The War on Switchwire. So it's like a commercial Switchwire.
Here's the question though, right? Well, what are they saving on this thing? Because how many motors does a regular Ender have? 2. How many does this one have? 2. It is the kinematics.
Well, 3.
We talked about
3.
Well, yeah, but like I'm talking about the driving. There's one X and one Z, and then the bed motor. So this one doesn't
So
have any
so
fewer anythings.
okay, but it does give you the benefit of gantry tramming. So
So
whereas you
does the
couldn't,
Ender 3V2 new one, the new one trams.
well, it
It has
it
the
doesn't
algorithms in it to
it
auto
it,
level
it
and tram. And,
yeah, it doesn't have independent Z though. It has a single Z with a belt. Whereas this one actually can change the height of either side depending on how you run the motor. So it does have an advantage there, I guess. But other than that, I think they're just basically commercializing a Voron design. Because everyone was taking their enders and modifying them and making them into switch wires. Now, pardon me. Now you don't even have to modify it; you just buy it, and it runs Klipper as well. So the Creality version of Klipper.
yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting and thought it was worth a discussion. I'm not sure how many people are going to run out and buy it for. I think it's like probably like $450, $500 Canadian, something like that.
Let's find out. Do.
It's like $395 US.
So that's like $8,742 Canadian.
Yeah, somewhere in that range. So
Everybody's like, really? No. No,
well,
not at all.
exchange rate's crazy right now.
Yeah. I blame solar flares for that. So, I mean, it's tough, like, to say, if belt driven or not, but if the core XE kinematics on this will make any difference, if it's true core XE, it says it is.
Yeah, and it has. I don't know if it will make the bed tramming, Dominic, any or bed leveling any faster, but it definitely just changes your movement slightly, the way it can move everything. But other than that, I don't know if it'll make it any faster. It does have auto. I think it's auto tramming. Or is it auto tramming and I'm not quite sure even the bed leveling method. I don't know if it uses a CR touch or if it has some other method of leveling the bed, like with a load sensor or something.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. It's interesting. They call the nozzle on it the unicorn.
Yeah, it's their new. It's basically their hot swap or easily swappable, all metal hot end. That is, I think they have it on a couple other printers now. So it's their new system. So it's interesting that you thought that things would change that much, and they really haven't. It's still kind of the same i3 style that it's been for ages, but yeah, core XZ.
Oh yeah, the K1C has the new nozzle as well.
Yeah, that's
so
what I thought.
It's called the unicorn, which is still hilarious. Yeah, there is nothing about other than it has bed leveling. You can't see what does it.
So Ray, how does the K1C do its bed leveling? Is it a load sensor where it touches the nozzle to the bed?
The probe in it in the little enclosure.
Well, I thought it actually touched the nozzle to the bed and had a load sensor.
Wasn't that the one that caught fire?
And that was their first generation.
I like how specific that is. That's the one that burned it down, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That one. With head making circles around the frame. Yes. And that's one thing too, like going to these core printers, which they work fine, but sometimes they struggle making circles. because it's a thing that's just kind of been there
It,
since the
but
beginning.
it's like tapping your head and rubbing your tummy at the same time.
If a 3D printer had a head or a tummy.
Well, because the XZ is rubbing your tummy, tapping your head is.
This is true. I mean, it's weird, but it's true. It's very weird.
I mean, it's supposed to be faster, but I don't know if it's faster. I think Core XY is still going to be faster, but they did claim that they got a 15-minute benchy.
Well, here's the thing, like, this printer, so like going Core XZ, you're still limited to the bed movement, right? So that's the biggest thing that, like, that's why a Core XY can actually outperform, like,
right?
the other.
Because it's the only mass that you have to worry about is the print head, whereas here you still have the mass of your print and print bed that is moving, and in the X and Z direction you have the mass of your actual print head to worry about. So you have two masses that you have to compensate for if you're doing any of the, you know, frequency compensation stuff. But you're right. That's why Core XY printers are because they normally the bed just drops.
Yep.
So you've got a lot less mass to move around, and that they can be so speedy.
Or sometimes not, but most of the time speedy. And then, like, of course, the other things in a printer like this will still not bring you down, but you still are limited to gravity on the Core X Z style printer. And again, like, I'm not sure, it would be interesting to like get like the newest, because it kind of looks like they're going with that plasticky frame on the new one.
I don't think you can adjust the bed either.
Yeah,
it's like previous, like the other Ender 3 that came out before this. That was the standard. So
yeah,
it was Ender 3 V3, but it wasn't the Core XZ, right?
Yeah. So here's this is what it looks like, if you're wondering. There, you have a picture.
And they went away from their black to a more of a gray charcoal.
Yep, and I can't tell if that's the same frame they used in the new one, or if it's actually metal.
It looks different. Well, the frame was metal in the other one. The at least the two extrusions going up were metal.
Yeah.
I don't know if their cross beam is metal. It's hard to tell. But anyway, I think we spend enough time on that. It does run Klipper as well, and so it kind of ties into what we're going to be talking about today.
Sorry, guys, we want both of our faces, not my giant noggin.
They don't want to see me.
No, they do. They need to.
And Dominic has it right. The Z is not the bottleneck where speed is concerned. You're 100% correct.
Yeah, like, the very best, it moves once a layer unless it's doing the auto leveling.
Exactly. So, yeah. So just a little update. I have all of my printers are running Klipper. I went through the process. I've made a few more little video clips and whatnot of the process, and I'm just trying to work them into a decent guide for the process. So that's kind of where I'm at with those. So now Blue Thunder is officially Klipper.
Codename Blue Thunder. Codename.
Yeah. Codename. Which is my CR10V2 Plus.
I like Pierre's comment. What? No more Marlin? And it's weird when you think about it, but like for some reason,
my daughter's printer over there has Marlin.
But in general, I'm not sure like what the huge push away from Marlin is.
It's
Um,
6 of one, half dozen of the other. I mainly wanted to learn the ins and outs and intricacies for you guys, so I can properly understand how Klipper works in relation to and troubleshooting and whatnot. So it was that for me. Um, you can do a lot of the you like that's one thing I'm looking into is I have one of the gyro little cards that you can connect to the Pi to then do the frequency analysis on your printer and do your compensation. So I would like to go through that process as well. So I'm going to learn that, and I'll run that on all of them to see what's what. So there's no David versus Greg on this one. I think David wants to play with Klipper as well.
I don't here. So here's my honest opinion. I don't care which one you use.
I don't care which one you used either.
So is one better than the other? No.
Just different.
They're different. They have different methods, and we'll show you a bit today. We're going to talk about some programming stuff, which should just be great. Like, I think that well, one, programming helps to add to your logical problem solving abilities, which is great. I think that when you come at Marlin versus Klipper, there is advantage that we talked about before, and the biggest one is Marlin has a set number of features that you can set in the EEPROM on the screen, right? That's where it is. Whereas Klipper, you can change more settings quicker just by uploading a config file, right? Like, it doesn't matter.
Just a quick modification.
Yeah.
Of the config file.
And it's how the config is interpolated, right? But when we talk about
adding new features,
yeah,
is not reflashing your main board.
No, and so you can end up, there's advantages and disadvantages. So like for me, I really love the fact that when a new Marlin comes out, I can like look at my old Marlin and get everything configured, and then I have everything in one nice package in one nice bin, and it just sends, and that's it, right? Whereas you saw with Klipper, the first time you use it, it's flash the board and then make the config and put the config and on the printer.
Once you have the config, that's the basic, pins and everything of your board. So it's to reset it up takes like way less time than Marlin.
Yep.
Because you load your image onto your Pi.
Yep.
Boot it up, and then drop your printer config on there, and you're now ready to go. And with all the latest versions of Marlin latest versions of Klipper with all its components and everything. So,
so like, I without jumping into it again, like all the way down the rabbit hole, that's kind of the high level differences. Sorry, and I honestly think they're very close because once you get a running firmware on Marlin, the things that you want to change are pretty easy, like accessible wise. Just because like if you wanted to change your acceleration settings or the bed leveling, right? Like you can do that in the EEPROM. There's no problem with it.
The other thing with Klipper is you can have it set to auto update itself. So every time you go to use your printer, you're running the latest version. You don't have to recompile. So that's the other advantage. And then you might have specific macros, which we're going to talk a bit about today, that you've customized for your needs. They recommend having a starting macro and an ending macro, which is like your standard start G code, but it's now combined into one command instead of multiple commands in your slicer. So you can then just have one profile that says, print start and one print end, and then you can have multiple printers and they're all configured differently for the print start and print end, but you can slice them all the same way. It's kind of neat.
So I think the biggest thing here now when we talk about macroing is let's call it a basic understanding of what the heck is going on with the programming.
True. And that's why David's talking about this more today, because he is the programming guru.
I mean, we work with a lot of programmers now. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So before we talk about programming, I want to talk about Kira. And the reason I want to talk about Kira a little bit, and it relates to this, is if you use Kira with Marlin, you know that there was commands that you could program in Kira to do like post-layer processing and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And so you had the ability in Kira to inject G-code, basically custom G-code before or after a line or a layer change, or like on a specific layer, you could say, hey, I want to pause here, change filament, and wait for the user's input, and then once I get an input, I can keep going, right? Or as like we talked about M6 or whatever on the channel too, right? M600, and that's the that's so you could use that inside of Kira. Now, the macroing kind of starts, like I said, with the basic understanding of programming. So there's words and things you will hear like when you first set out towards programming that you probably are familiar with, right? And these things they can live inside of your printer configs, whereas like those scripting things that Kira did lived inside of the slicer. So the advantage to that is these macros that you build for Klipper are always there, no matter which slicer you're using, right? You can call them quite easily. I'll show you kind of how to do that. Now, a really good place to start with when you're trying to learn these macros is actually on Klipper's discourse group. So I'm going to post a link here for everybody in the chat. Oh, thank you, Pierre.
Thanks, Pierre.
Wait, hold on. Does this work? I don't know if that works.
Yeah,
it worked. Thanks, buddy. I'm like, I don't know if the sounds work or not. So I'm gonna post this in the chat here. Just give me a second. So here is kind of like, I'll post if I remember. I'll try to post it in the description too, so it's easier to find after the video here. But this is part of the Discord groups. There's a guy named Mental that does a pretty good breakdown of what the heck is going on here. Yeah. But at a high level, Prusa works off of a few things, and one thing is called a function. And in programming land,
Prusa, you mean
Klipper?
Yes.
If I say weird words, it's all about Klipper now, guys. So Klipper uses function-based programming, right? And procedural, I should say too, and object-oriented. It's great. So you have all the things. But first, we'll talk about functions. Functions are a collection of commands or variables that you can save to execute all together at once, and that'll make sense in a second here. And then we have variables, which we can set. So variables are the tiny things in programming that you would use instead of using a literal. Whoa, what's a literal, right? That's a big sentence right there. But the literals are basically the values that get set to a variable or that get literally used. So We'll talk about that in a second too. So, kind of those are the bigger ones. There's a if you go to the document, you can see there's a few other things, but we've talked about like variables, literals. Um,
Do you want
I'm
to
going
put the document on the screen while you're talking
No,
about it? I don't know.
no, I have something else on the screen in a second.
Okay. All right.
It's already covered. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll break down a little bit of a macro. And this macro is
Dominic
towards.
asks about constraints.
Yeah, you can use constraints as well. So like the language that we're using here is kind of is
It's
Python, right? So if you know C, C is a wonderful language, and that's kind of an adjacent one to Python. Now, the nice part is this is a little more forgiving, but not much more than Python, because you still have to watch your tabs while you're going through. So if we talk about push button, I think everybody should be able to see kind of
I
this
see your screen.
Okay. So when we look at this, you can see that some of the G code, this is so you can see this is a function. The function is called this at the top, G code macro start. Now, if you let's say don't remember plain English, and that's kind of what Klipper is going for here, more than like here's a random number, here's another random thing, and then go. Klipper is actually trying to
Make it
more
understandable.
human, yeah, legible, instead of always using, right? So like for example, and there's it's you can there's a I'll post a link to this one too, just so you guys can have it. But on again, this one's right from the Klipper site, and I'll bring it over into the screen share here so you can see it. Here we go. So you could see like on the Klipper G codes, you can see that some of them are regular, and they support many of the standard G codes, right? That's on purpose.
But they don't support some of the Marlin ones.
Well, and that's where we have to think of what's the difference. So you can scroll through this top part, which you, if you want to, you can. You can see that it has the normal stuff like homing, turn off the steppers, right? Like lots of the heavy hitter G codes here, right? So absolute coordinates, relative set, and you can see in our example here. So let's bring this back up. Like we're resetting extruders, we're setting relative positions and travel heights and speeds, right? Feed rates, and then we're moving to start positions in this example. So the G code is preserved, right? So that's kind of a what we're looking at now. Like Greg mentioned, there are some things that are missing from this list of G codes, but yeah, here's the line that really matters. For further details about the above command, see the RepApp G code documentation, right? So you can see here, like there's several links right underneath here, right? And so if you were to open this one, it takes you right to the RepRap site, which for some reason isn't loading right now. Sorry. There it goes. Right? So it's telling you that most of these work. Most.
Right.
Most. Not all, but
yeah.
most.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I noticed when I first started kind of looking at this is my start G code wasn't was because I didn't really modify it. My previous start G code in Prusa, Stool was calling a G29 and a G34. Both of those don't exist the same way in Klipper. Now, you can alias it and you can create your own G29 macro, which then refers to the actual process that does the same equivalent.
Yep.
in Klipper. So that's another way of using a macro, is to kind of make yourself backwards compatible with what you're used to.
Yeah.
But there's way more to it than that.
So if we look at like that example too, and come back to here, this is just regular G code here. So what we have again is the function at the top, and then I have some G code definition underneath it, right? And so this whole thing by itself could essentially run, right? Now, like Greg was mentioning, I couldn't do something similar to this. Let's go like this. Doop, doop, doop. Did I erase the T or not copy the T? Did they miss a T? I don't know. So again, tabbing matters. So you want to make sure everything's kind of lined up. Now, like I mentioned, this is mostly rep. We found it, right? So like if I wanted to do, let's say, I don't care about preheating tools or temperatures or anything like that. Just want to do a bed homing first, right? That's going to work.
G28.
Yep. So that's going to work. And then I could put a comment here. And we've seen commenting. So like if you've seen Prusa Slicer startup code, the comments are a little different because it would have so this would be a Prusa comment, right? And a Kira comment with the semicolon and then the comment. The semicolon tells the slicer to ignore whatever after the semicolon until the line breaks. Whereas this one, we can just make a comment like this, and I can go auto bed leveling. All right.
No, that's homing.
Oh yeah, good point. Thank you. I have auto bed leveling on my mind. Homing. See. Now the only here's the thing. Lots of times you're the only one that's gonna read this, and everybody's like, "I don't got a comment. It's for me." But if you're doing something complicated, you should probably comment it.
6 to 10 months from now, when you are troubleshooting something because something changed and you're looking at it, it's really handy to have those comments to be like, oh yeah, that's why I did that.
Yep. And Dominic's is saying, man, this really reminds me of like the original DOS batch files. That's the .bat.
Kinda.
.cmd. I mean, it's close. Especially like the commenting's the same, right? So in those files, you can use the pound or the hash.
Wasn't it // No, it wasn't.
No,
it was pound.
Yeah. Pound it. But so like now we have a Mac, like we have a thing that does a thing. Wow, look at that, Greg.
Love it.
This isn't my start print. Okay, let's call this something different. We wanna call it something different. What do we want to call it?
G29.
Boo, boring. Let's call it home level.
David Home.
Best. Just kidding. I don't know. But you can see here, you just got to keep it so that it's one line, one string. So you're actually inputting one string and keeping it all together. So we could just call it D-home level there. Right. And so then this is where it kind of gets different because there actually is a bit of like I was talking about before. And let me see if I can bring the screen up like a smart person. Is it? That's it. Right. So we have this. Maybe I'll just drag it over here. Did I close the window I wanted? Probably closed it, guys. However, we can talk about on this page here. You can see down the side there's a sensible like plain English commands. So you can see like we're gonna go for this bed mesh section here, right here in our example. Mm-hmm. So we are going to grab that, and then what we're going to do with that is we're going to use a few commands. So the first thing you do when you make a mesh of your bed, like so your printer starts auto homing in Prusa or sorry, in Marlin or Klipper, what's the first thing it's gotta do, Greg?
What's the first thing? You
Uh-huh.
went to home.
So we did it. The second thing. I'm gonna start typing. Okay, bad. That's the only clue.
The bed mesh calibrate.
Yes. Right? Actually, sorry.
It's
Clear
bed
first.
underscore mesh underscore calibrate.
No, clear first. Go to your old mesh. Get rid of it and then calibrate. So like the bed mesh clear does the same thing as G29 does in Marlin. Like the process. When you issue G29 in Marlin, it forgets the old mesh.
Well, the other way of doing it is you can make a mesh for your print. So you can go bed underscore mesh underscore calibrate, and then you can then save your new mesh and create a profile for that mesh.
Yes.
So you can have multiple leveling meshes
Yep.
depending on the number of, let's say, probing you want to do or whatnot. So if you only wanted like a 3x3 in the center of your bed, you could do that. Or if you wanted a 10x10 or something, you could do that and have them saved as separate profiles and have them loaded. You don't even have to do the med leveling. If you know everything hasn't changed, you can just load it using profile equals whatever your
kind of font
mesh was called.
That's gonna bother me. See the font? L looks like a capital L. Anyway, so the first thing we clear we bed mesh calibrate, right? So just to show you, no, hold on, I'll get there. I forget this one. So if you ever don't know what it does, you can come to the documentation. So and it gives us kind of like what it does. So you can set a profile name if you want on the bed mesh the bed mesh calibrate. You could also set methods, movements, variables, right? You can tell it like Greg was saying. You can tell it that you wanted to do it like per print size instead of the whole bed.
Yep. I do. Good. I actually do a step before this. I do my Z tilt adjust because I need to square up my gantry in relation to the bed before I do the mesh. Yeah. So I that in my Start G code that you're building, I would have the Z tilt adjust command before the mesh.
Yeah, so like, and no worries, right? So what Greg said is true of the ease of Klipper. Like on the fly, you can just say, I want to do this thing with words, which is Greg said, I want to calibrate my Z tilt, and then I can find the thing with words. Wow.
Which, do you know what that Z tilt is? G34.
So if we were doing that, we could actually calibrate the Z tilt up here after the home. Bop. Right? And so then we can comment it as Z tilt correction.
And then I put a note.
G36, I guess.
Or G34.
Yeah, if you wanted to remember the old.
Yeah, and I did that as a comment just for myself, so I remembered that. Oh yeah, that's the equivalent, right?
And like the more you comment, the better, because you're gonna come back to this, and you're not always going to have, say, like this document open. You might, I guess, but you could come back and you can actually see what it's doing. And we'll talk more about profiling and stuff too as we progress through this part of Klipper, but we just want basics right now, right? So then you can see there's a few more, like they have a nice BL touch section now, which didn't exist in the before waybacks, so that's nice. But so once we have our 3 steps here, we have calibrate, right? So we're just setting our printer stuff. You can actually call profiles if you want. inside of the config. So this is where Greg was talking about, like, if you have like different printers. So like, as an example, and we haven't made profiles yet, but as an example, I could do like, the command would be bed mesh profile. I got this, don't worry, my fingers work really good in the morning. And so we're gonna go load, and then what happens is you load whichever profile you've made before. And so
It
we
could be
can
your
do
default. It could be your 3x3. It could be whatever you called it.
anything you called it. This is a string, it's one word. So if you need more than one word, you can do what programmers doing, camel case things. So like, after the equals, let's say I have ender 3 underscore probe, right? So this printer has a probe on it, so I'm going to load my ender 3 probe profile. If I didn't have an ender 3, and you can, so we haven't got there yet, but you can actually run checks and balances inside of your macros. So you could say that if the printer that is connected is an ender 3 with a BL Touch by the printer name, right? Because you set the name inside of your Klipper instance. You can actually say, if this printer is connected, use this profile. So you could have the same config file now for like Greg's entire fleet of printers, and all he has to do is validate which one's using or which one the G code is trying to propagate on, and the config file can do that for you.
So you can get as nerdy and complex as you want, or keep it as simple as you want. You don't have to go crazy,
boring.
but you can do some pretty amazing extras with the ability to use the macros. And there's a lot of macros that you can add in to Klipper. There is actually a repository.
There's a repository.
Let me see. You continue talking. I'll find that, and then we can refer to it.
Okay, I will talk. No, I'm just kidding. So how's it going? Is everybody kind of good? Keeping up? Question time. Just see. I think so. It's not like too dissimilar so far of what we talk about when we look for like differences between Marlin and Klipper. So far we've just configured G code, and it's great, right? So when we look at we've talked about profiling, we've talked about commenting. If we wanted to set something like with a variable, so if we were to go look up hold on, let's see here, this one, here we go. So like you can see G28 works similar with the X, Y, and Z, right? So you can actually tell it where you want it to home. So if we wanted to do some math behind that, we could. So what we could do is set literals or use variable values, right? So if I go up into, sorry, 1 second. So, and we see this in Klipper, or not Klipper, Marlin as well. I can do something simple like let me just bounce here. So that x equal let's see, x is 225. Actually, it's 235. That's my bad. Right? And then, so that's my bed size on an X gantry. So I could do something like that. I think it would be that. And what this does, let me just double check that. Yeah. What this does is it'll take half of the bed size instead of X, right? So if I wanted to make sure that, like, when I'm homing, I'll have a probe, maybe, right? I can literally say set X to half of its value, and then probe Z, right? Because if you have a probe and you're offside or offset, you might miss the bed. So this tells it home X, go to half of it, and then do your dirty, right? So I could put X there now, and that's actually the variable X, and it actually will last through and be a variable. Like I said, you can do ifs and such as well. So we could say like if printer equal to here, or some other Boolean operators. And I think we'll touch on those ones a bit later because I don't want to get too far ahead into some of the harder parts of this. But that's kind of the basics of how to get your macro set up. So this one up here is an exact example from the first link we posted for you, so you can check it out if you would like. It is again, it's nice because you don't even have to guess at what it's doing. It's just like heat the tool, wait, reset the extruder. It tells you what it's doing, right? So if you see something in here like this is great, this is great, this is my start print G code, right? So what it's doing is M109S, and that sets like the temperature of your tool head. But look, plain English, guys, plain English. So they're using this. Basically, what's happening here is they're calling an object for the tool types. We'll get into that. That's the next week or so thing. But and then this one runs through. Reset the extruder. That's important, right? The extruder should be at 0 before you start a print, hopefully. And then it runs through its stuff, right? Move x-axis, start to position. And then this is drawing that purge line. And then it purge lines. And then it moves down a little bit to draw the other line. And then what does it do again? Back to 0. And you can see that lots of times in standard G code and stuff, this occurs more than once because you don't want your extruder to actually like run out, I guess, of because on Marlin, for example, and Klipper has it too, there's a avoid long extrusions command.
Yes.
And so if you don't reset your G, like your extruder, and it's just cumulatively adding, like you won't make it very far, because lots of times it's like you set that value to like 1,000 millimeters or something, right, to make sure that you don't just
And a benchy could be more than 1,000 millimeters long.
Yeah. So, well, it is, right? And usually you never get a benchy on. That's sad. And so then you can see the last thing this one up top does is it calls and moves up for the travel heights, the print to start. So like what logically where we would use our two examples would be you would run this one first and then run this one. So this one would get all your calibration stuff. And at the end of this one, you could home again without clearing the mesh. And then you just know it's in the right position. Or you could go to absolute values since you have homed already. So you could say G1X0, G1Y0, and right, you probably would want to avoid Z0 and maybe go Z2 and then wait for this one to run.
Yep.
Just so you don't. Z is the one that brings your nozzle down, right, guys? So you want to be careful.
So staying on this topic and just kind of letting people maybe explore a little more, I put another link in our show notes, David. But there's a good repository that you can actually add to your Klipper to add a whole bunch of these different macros. So this is a really, they update this continuously as people improve the macros and whatnot. So you can use this to have it in the background pulling down. They have examples of how to add it to pull down all the macro updates on a regular basis. But there's a whole bunch of different examples of macros in here, and to use the macros, you can either just add them to your printer.cfg, but then it might get massive.
Yeah.
or you can refer in your Klipper or printers.cfg to your other location that your macros are stored in, your other config file that
Yeah.
has them all in it. So just to be aware, there's you can put them all in one file, but you may want to have multiple files. So
Yeah.
but yeah, so if did we put the link
Yep.
into the chat?
I popped it up. I'm actually going into the stream right now, guys, to add the notes to the description too. Just get everything in there.
So this is really good if you want to look through some examples of some macros that other people have built that might do the things that you typically want. They also add a lot of the backwards compatible macros. So like they do add a G29 so that if you referred to a G29 in your, let's say your Kira or whatnot already, it will then run the proper command, the alias basically to what the equivalent is in Klipper. So something to be think about. You may not want to load all of these because that's a hell of a lot of macros to load, but figure the ones you want, turn off the ones you don't. You can do that either by commenting them out, or in the Klipper GUI you can actually turn them on and off. So it's kind of neat.
It is similar to the include libraries, Dominic, as well. So like everything, everything that you do is actually real similar to C. It's Python, right? Because that's how Python is. But it is case sensitive, and you can there is convention to the casing as well. So like when you're setting or doing Boolean and stuff, you could if you read through some of those examples, and the one we did too had some of the casing is lowercase because it is a protected function basically of the language, whereas like G28 or bed tilt calibration, those are all capital to denote that they're part of the core function of Klipper, right? So it helps you separate it beyond the commenting. And then I don't know if you noticed, but the function as well, the function naming and the G code at the start are all lowercase. So that's outside of any definitions yet. So that's kind of the logic they have behind that. So now this is obviously a large topic, and we're going to have to come back to it and
for sure
make some more practice, and we'll go through some more next week. We'll go through some more of the functionality, like using Boolean logic inside, and maybe addressing and calling objects from the functions. So there's lots to come, but I would encourage you, if you are watching right now, or if you are watching at home later, or in the bathroom, or
wherever
in the garage from the top of a tower. I'm just kidding, I don't know anymore. If you're watching this after though, I would encourage you read through the examples. We're back next week for another exciting live stream, but we will keep going into this. So if you have specific once you read the examples, you might have some questions, which is great. That's what the Discord is for, and also the live stream. So if you save them for the live stream, and then because I always find it better to learn from specific questions that like you're going to like, if you ask it, you're going to remember, so that's kind of the thing. I'm gonna do this really quick. Thank you to our Patreons out at the top, everybody on the list. You guys are all awesome. We appreciate you. If you want to have fun and talk behind the scenes about firmwares or anything like that, or 3D printing or not 3D printing, check out patreon.com/3dmakeit, and join the community there to get on Discord, and enjoy the Patreon live streams when it happens. We could also be found everywhere at
www.3dmakeit.ca.
Did it for some reason? My button didn't work and I got thrown off. I'll have to see. Is it this one? Yes, this one. And then like, share, subscribe, And is there? Yes. So there is. There is trace logging and stuff like that available. Yeah, because you absolutely need that stuff, Dominic. Because compared to Marlin, right? You know if it worked or not after compile. If it compiled, it worked. If it didn't compile, it don't work. Right?
Right.
Like from a high level standpoint. Whereas this could still install, but you might have an issue. So there is output and verbosity available. But I think that's the end. I think we've reached it, friend.
I think we have. It was hopefully informative. We like nerding out here and getting super nerdy, but just so you know, um, we enjoy your comments and any questions you have. If you're in our Discord, please feel free to put them in there. If you want us to focus on a specific part of the internals of Klipper, or a feature or something that you don't understand, let us know, and then we can, elaborate more on that in the next kind of series of shows that we're doing. So
For sure. And as always, stay safe. No, I'm just kidding. But do stay safe. But we'll the stream. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming.